The first art car that I ever saw was the Andy Warhol M1 Pro car. There's like some footage of him painting it in the pits. It's like the coolest thing. I was never really into cars, and I was at school one day, and the headmaster got a new car, and it was a 930 Turbo in moss green metallic. And I was like, that is the coolest car I've ever seen. And hence I started loving Porsches. And there's just something about naturally aspirated flat sixes. It's a timeless look. It's just the coolest car in the world. To start off, this is a Tuthill built 3-litre RSR 1974. I knew it was a good car, and it was like the perfect base because it was already white. We got the car bought in the UK. We then had to fly it out to Los Angeles. And then we then spent about a day just sanding down the paint. So then the actual paint that we're using, which is like an acrylic, could stick onto it and not just fall off. And then it was like 3 days of painting that were like long nights, like finishing at 2 a.m. We drove about 2.5 hours north of Los Angeles, like through the canyons, through the desert, like epic drive, to take the photos that we were then going to post, you know, collaborating with all the outlets, the journalists and stuff. And we were genuinely 3.5 minutes away from our destination. Like, you couldn't have written it. And I was like, well, steering feels a bit heavy, I'm not gonna lie. So we pulled over to check, rear left tire completely flat. I think maybe 3 cars passed us in the whole like 3 hours we were there. And one guy pulled over and was like, you guys all right? And we're like, well, bit of a flat tire, bit of an issue. It was like, I got you, I've got some of that like foam stuff, you know, you fill up the tire and it like expands when you turn it. And he went home, came back an hour later after driving home to get it. And we did it, we got some air in it. And after about 40 seconds of air, it turned flat again. Got a couple of photos, which were very nice. So then they ended up getting posted by Porsche. But there's a reason that you can't see the rear left quarter, is because it's completely flat and the car is basically on the piss the whole time. So this is car number 1, Porsche. Car number 2, also Porsche. But this one's a bit newer. It's a 997 RGT, which means road gravel track. Instead of doing more of an art car on that, we made a hybrid of making a livery, but also being hand painted. So there's an amazing artist called Death Spray who works with like Monster. He does all Ken Block's cars, all with that hand airbrush. And there's one car that I always was obsessed with, which was a 993 GT2 Evo with the PlayStation livery, because I grew up playing PlayStation. And I was like, that's gotta be the livery, you've gotta do it. And also, we were releasing it at the Fat Ice Race. And also the original sponsor from back in the day was Fat International. So it kind of all worked together. It's not quite just a normal livery. We've also done a bit of there's some sparkles in there and a couple of Easter eggs. All the PlayStation logos light up in the dark. So if you're rallying it in the dark and they're taking flash photos, or whatever, you just see PlayStation, PlayStation, PlayStation. Creative process-wise, it's quite difficult to find the right car and the right artist because everyone's got a different style and not everything goes together. One of my favorite quotes is, see what 99% of people are doing and do the opposite. The car we haven't touched on yet, which is the Alfa Romeo, that car is genuinely one of the most beautiful silhouettes I think there's ever been designed of a car. That's just like, it's a very elegant design. Instead of finding like a nice, smooth artwork like this, go with something like Mental, which is so against the grain, which is a Nigerian street artist. Because it is such a pretty car, and then you're getting this street artist to paint it in the middle of Mayfair at like midnight, it got quite a lot of hate, but frankly, those guys can f off. Because one thing I pride myself on is I think I have good taste. I kind of know what looks cool. I think people can overcomplicate things. It looks sick, it's already sold, and it was posted by I'm Just Bay, and it's done something like over 3 million views now, and everyone knows the car. I mean, I parked it up at the Scramble a few weekends ago, and I just stood around sort of like eavesdropping on people, and I think it was mostly 30, 40 people were like, this is the car that's on TikTok, and it was like spray painted or whatever. And I was like, yeah, that is an effective marketing technique. The next car I'm mega excited about because it's a car I've wanted for a while, but also it's probably one of the most successful designers of our generation. He's done collaborations with Nike, Adidas, Gap, all the big names, which is sick. And I guess just see how far we can develop making art cars and how much we can normalize them, because everyone wants to be different and they buy a Cullinan and wrap it. I want to try and normalize it where people want art cars because they're so outrageously different that it's like, it's a whole new level of customizing cars. One of my favorite quotes is, the idea is not to live forever, it's to create something that will. And I think I'm not there yet, but we're on our way. My name is Jimmy Howson, and I'm in Art Cars.